Welcome, Eagles, to another Trad at Night special guest exclusive podcast right here on the TradCatKnight.org website. Folks, today is January the 23rd, 2020. Hopefully, you all are having a very wonderful and blessed day. As always, we continue to keep the programming moving along Monday through Saturday, folks. Typically 3 or 4 guests on every day. And again, I encourage you all, implore you all to continue to invite your friends, family members, to TradCatKnight.org, your number one Catholic podcast and information service. And we are trying to do our very best to help Catholics feel connected. We want to educate on a daily basis. We want to inspire. We want to get people prepared for the days ahead. And we've got someone who perhaps you're not aware of here at TradCatKnight, which I recently came across. The prophecy prepper, Mark McLean, is going to be joining us here from Europe, and we're going to be breaking down, just who he is, his background, how the YouTube channel came about. And we'll break down prepping. We'll break down prophecy, obviously. So it's good to get first-time guest Mark McLean on the show. Don't forget about my Marian Jahenny movie on Vimeo. If you go on over to Vimeo.com, it's 2.5 hours long, as far as I'm aware. In English, it is the most extensive sort of review or looking at the life of Marian Jahenny. And of course, prophecies are included in there. So do check that out. Don't forget about the web conference today, folks. 3 o'clock, Faith Over Fear web conference featuring some of the top Catholic speakers. So purchase your ticket last second here. You can still do so. You can also purchase past web conferences for a $10 gift donation, and or I've got like a little special going on here for the past 4 web conferences that we've done, including the Dark Winter one, for a $25 gift donation. That's 16 hours worth of video content, folks. It's truly phenomenal. And outside of that, what we're going to be doing is, well, you know what? Let me take a quick look. What is today? The 23rd? I'm supposed to be on Celeste Salone's channel too today. I forgot about that. Oh goodness, it's crazy. I might actually have to reschedule that. I don't know how I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to be done by 7:30 tonight. In any case, folks, we now have Mark McLean on the show, and he's raised cradle Catholic, strong devotion to Our Lady. I don't want to give, on my side of things, I don't want to give too much away because I'm going to allow Mark to really explain where he's coming from. But he has taken an in-depth look of past Marian apparitions, how they are tying into our times. And my goodness, they all pretty much say the same in regards to humanity not getting it, in regards to churchmen gone wayward, in regards to repentance and reparation, and some tumultuous times ahead of us. Mark, I'm really just going to hand it over to you now, and maybe you could tell us more in depth who you are and how you have arrived at this point with the YouTube channel Prophecy Prepper.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for reaching out to do this. It's something I've really been wanting to do for the past few months. So a little bit about me. I'm 35 years of age, from Scotland. I was a former seminarian for a few years studying in Rome. And prior to that, I did grow up like the cradle Catholic, going to Mass, the odd confession, thanks to the parents and the family round about bringing me up in what I would say was the standardised faith with good devotions. Then after college one day, killing time for the bus, I decided rather than window watch, I went into the church, which is something I didn't normally do during the week. And to my surprise, adoration was on. I sat in the little day chapel alone under the statue of Fatima, which reminded me of the childhood movie I always loved about Our Lady of Fatima. I says a few prayers and then I left for the bus. A couple of days later, that flexible time, I went back into prayer again in the church, then the next day, and within 6 weeks, this sense of peace grew, this looking forward to going in to pray grew, and it's all I was looking forward to do. And 15 minutes became 3 hours every day after college. I couldn't get enough. I did have a special experience. I didn't see anything of that, but I was getting paranoid I was wasting my time. I wasn't praying right after such a growth in prayer and meditation during this time. And let's just say I got my answer, basically, that he was happy with what I was doing, and I continued. That set me on a journey where I eventually left university within the year. I went from college to university during this time, and the faith kept growing and growing, and I just saw God everywhere. In the lectures where we're studying nutrition and the biological way of the body, I just saw God. When I got home, I wanted just to pray, which led me into meeting some people who were part of prayer groups and had been in pilgrimages, which led to a year in community in the north of Scotland. Took time out to discern with this growing thing. And I did a couple of come and sees from the Friars of the Renewal to the Carthusians, and always had that heart for the monasticism, but I couldn't do that cut off at a young age from family and thoughts. So a year passed and I more and more grew with the diocesan priesthood. And I think from day one the alarm bells were ringing off, but I went for it knowing that I had to do something after all this time of it growing up. But that foundation of love, it went from practicing the faith to living it. And I was just in love with God. I was in love with heaven. I was in love with everything that was coming. And I got more into aware of the Marian Apparitions, which I think grew a more relationship with Our Lady as well. And from there it's just evolved and grew. Yeah, and after Rome it's had its ups and downs for sure. But one thing that's always remained through all that is these times and what our Blessed Mother's preparing. No matter dark times that have came, no matter what's happened in life, there's something about what's happening now. It's becoming more and more obvious to anyone. And that's why I set up the channel, Prophecy Prepper. It was the last 6 months of seminary actually, and I never realised how many people were actually just making videos. And when it was the prepping, I don't even know how I came across it. But I'm like, well, that's kind of like me. I'm prepping, but I'm preparing for what's to come. I'm not prepping for these guys. For me, preppers, a lot of them don't seem to have a source to the reasoning behind why they do it. For me, it's Our Lady, it's heaven's messages, hence the name Prophecy Prepper. So to me, it made a lot of sense. But the channel kind of went in different tangents in ways like, the great outdoors, camping, bushcraft, survival. But I think what the analytics have shown, as fellow YouTubers have said to me who I've met up with, you need to focus on where it's grown. And for me, that's the Marian Prophecies, Apparitions, and for these times. So may this new year, with yourself and any others, let's hope we can grow, because the urgency is growing. There's no doubt about it. And that is probably where I'm at just now.
Yeah, no, I've mentioned this. Some of the priests I'm affiliated with, I'm sure you've heard of Father Malachi Martin, Irishman, who's really divulged the third secret of Fatima. Most people don't realize, as a part of that third secret, in relation to not only the ongoing apostasy in the church, it was actually made mention of not only various diseases and pandemics, but a particular pandemic which would wipe out whole nations overnight. So, I mean, if we think coronavirus is, the end all, I mean, this is just really the beginning, even on the disease level. And even as Marie-Julie Jahenny depicted in some of her writings and revelations, certain pandemics that would target children, a burning plague to come, which would wipe out a great portion of humanity. So, it's it's a time where we really gonna have to hunker down on every level. But it's very interesting that you mentioned Our Lady, because obviously we know she's the new ark, and kind of parlaying that into a prepping conversation where we're bringing 2 by 2 into the ark, right, and into our homes, and it was also revealed to Marie Julie. From our Lord to Marie-Julie Jahenny, that the home is the refuge of my peoples. So we know we've got to get our homes prepared for the days ahead. But maybe you could speak to more about what, particularly, are you doing on the prepping side of things for those who are not privy to your work? Because I bring on some of the top preppers and survivalists, and they're not obviously not normally Catholic. Although off to the side when I talk to them, Mark, they definitely agree with everything I have to say, which is quite interesting. But what specifically, is there any particular niche or area that you are focused in on the prepping side of things?
Yeah, well, I think if I had to look at it, I think one, you have to look at your own circumstances, your own finances, your own environment. If you're looking at it in the materialistic side, like the non-faithful prepper, so to say, because at the end of the day, we're all preparing for something. Like I was saying earlier, what's their reason for it? My reason is what I believe is coming with these prophecies. Now, in terms of the math side of things, I think the biggest preparation, without it being kind of a washover, is preparing your spirit, preparing your soul for heaven. Now, I can go out there, and if I had the money to spend in underground bunkers and 10 years of food costing millions of pounds for everything, what happens if I drop dead before any of it ever happened and I'm not in a good place with my soul? So preparing for 10 years ahead when you don't know if you'll see tomorrow, it's kind of, let's remember what the gospel says, prepare for today. You don't know when the master returns. But for me, in my circumstances, one thing I would say is I've done a couple of radio interviews here in Scotland the past couple of years. Now, even up until a year ago, preppers were laughed at almost as like conspiracy theorists, silly people. But see, under this past year of the beginning of lockdown, we're not even at the 12th month yet. We're not even at the first year. There's a difference on that radio show, which I did a month ago. They don't laugh at the preppers because they saw the panic buying a few months ago. Every supermarket, I mean, apart from the vegan aisle and the fish freezer, everything in the supermarket was gone.
Right.
Honestly,
yeah, all the healthy stuff.
Yeah, I took the fish in the
right?
freezer. That'll do me just fine. But it's the point of like, I think it needs to be rational. If you can get maybe a month's supply of extras, don't go in and taking everything at once. If you know something's coming in a month or two, then start doing that little bit extra if you can. Ideally for me, I'd love a little bit of my own land, away from it all, off grid, self-sufficient, growing some crops, get the chickens, I like that. But at the same time, there's a sense of where you can really focus on God and spiritual, this Catholic faith as well. But in terms of my own house now, I mean, I've got the wax candles, I've got the holy water, I'm reading up, and I've got like from seminary studies, I've got everything from Scott Hahn to Aristotle's, St. Thomas's Aquinas commentary on Aristotle's physics. As you can see, that's a bit jumbled even trying to say it. But I'm preparing my heart and my mind, as we should do, I think, prayer, fasting, scripture. I really feel this past year is make sure we know the catechism. I think what the refugees of future, if we are into our homes, if it is just a few homes, whatever remnant is left after whatever comes, we're going to have to know the faith. So that's kind of, I hope that maybe answers something. I know there's a lot to funnel through from my mind to my mouth there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I've actually done some popular European shows, including Kev Baker's show. I've done Richie Allen's show, trying to get some of these Catholic points of view across, and we got to continue out there and to evangelize. Now, in regards to your channel, a little over 4,000 subscribers again with one of your latest videos discussing Blessed Anna Emmerich, even Pio. In regards to these apocalyptic times, maybe you could break down some of the points that you stress. Now, both of them mentioned, right, this apostate church of darkness, which should be fairly obvious, very obvious at this point. But we do know as Catholics, the gates of hell won't prevail, no matter how few in the end will keep the faith. We know that the church will live on. But what were some of the points that you were stressing, Blessed Emmerich? I mean, Blessed Anna Emmerich on the mystic side of things, she's one of my go-tos. So much rich detail she provided. But what did you talk about?
Yeah, so I was aware about her from the fact that Mel Gibson made the movie The Passion of the Christ based on her writings, and I believe that's how we've also found Our Lady's House of Ephesus through her writings. That's as much as I knew from years ago. But you know actually what it was, and I don't know if you're aware, if others are, probably you are aware, but last April, lockdown here in Scotland, like most of the world, because it was the fear factor, they got us at the beginning. And I remember, because from my window I look up the hill to the church, it's a beautiful view. I can't get to the church, it's a scorcher of a day, and I'm lying I'm sitting on the couch looking out the window. Lockdown's there, but there's the Easter Bunny walking about giving out eggs for the kids, chocolate eggs up and down the street, and community spirit. But it was Easter Sunday, there was no Blessed Sacrament processions, there was no sign of anything of faith during this lockdown. And for whatever reason, YouTube recommended Catherine Emmerich as I went on my phone, and I started reading it or watching the video, and what stood out straight away, April 12th, 1820, was one of her visions where she wrote she had another vision of the Great Tribulation. It seemed that there was a concession demanded from the clergy which could not be granted. She saw the older priests weeping bitterly. The younger ones were weeping some, but others were lukewarm, get readily a way to do what was demanded, and it was as if the church was splitting into two camps. And straight away, and then May 13th, 1820, it was about the two popes, the relationship. And I'm sitting there on April 12th, 2020, 200 years to the day, and the churches are closed more or less globally because of this pandemic. I thought that was, that blew me out the water. 200 years to the day. And as May 13th, 1820, we know May 13th is the first apparition of Fatima. That's not by chance. And speaking about the two popes, speaking about heretics in the Rome, great miseries and all this and what else is going on. But the one thing I find a lot with her is when she says, yeah, the two popes stand out, but we're also speaking about a time where the church is constantly undermined. I think that in the past 12 months, the governments have proven that God ain't first. It's science, it's data, it's fear, and whatever else they're doing with it. They're not opening the churches to beg God to take this away. And I think that undermining of the church trying to keep in, United Nations side of things, the Holy See, diplomatic relations, it's becoming more political than Christ-centred. And I think a lot more of this rise of what is the spirit of the Antichrist, the spirit of where they're putting their faith now, is a big thing that's starting to make more sense as time goes on. But 200 years to the day, I just couldn't get away with that. That's not by chance.
Wow, good stuff. Mark McLean, Prophecy Prepper, get on over to his YouTube channel today. Subscribe. Now, maybe you could give us a bird's eye view, a foot soldier view of what life, well, not only in Scotland, but just from what you can gather, how Europe is faring. Again, I bring on guests from all over the place: England, Scotland, Ireland, obviously other European countries, Poland even. Is Europe dead in regards to Christianity? We know what prophecies have to say in regards to the revolutions, which we're seeing the early signs of, but then ultimately worldwide communist spread. And it'll happen here in America too. And that's a whole other side topic there. But what's it really like in Europe these days, specifically Scotland?
Yeah, well, I think I don't have to look any further than my own country, actually. I do have to do a lot of research to get the fact on it, but from what I've been told through the circles of the faith and that is, before COVID came, Scotland apparently was going to be the first nation in the world to recognise a third gender, which was non-binary by law. And the sex education, if you look into that stuff, that is absolutely grotesque, what they're trying to bring into our children. Is that why we send them to school? Is that why we prepare them for the future? You go back to Keto, Our Lady of Good Success, as even with Catherine Emmerich have already highlighted, it's to do with undermining of the church, the Freemasons, whatever you want to call the Freemason umbrella under secret societies, from the Bilderberg to the Illuminati or whatever. There's something going on where they're doing the same thing as they did before. It's just a new mask. If you remember that movie, Carol, the Man That Became Pope, there was a scene in it where exactly that's what it says. If you don't defeat the Nazis by love, they'll come back with a new face. It'll be the same. So, yeah, we're not getting military might coming into our countries. We're not getting it all hammered down to us, burning our books and saying this is what we have to do. It's now the drip effect. Drip, drip, drip. A little more. Preaching intolerance. Preaching tolerance all the time. Political correctness. All this stuff with the education system now, with the LGBTQ agendas as well. It's the same evil. It's just a different face. And Scotland itself, being a socialist country now as well, it's highlighting all the more why we need to stop chanting for independence, just as the Americans chanted for change with Obama, and actually look into the facts of what's going on and start using our reason. Because if you look from Genesis to now, the fall comes about because of distortion of truth. And I think that's a big thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful sort of correlation there. Yeah, the fall of humanity due to a distortion of the truth, or an inversion of the truth, if you will, and that's what's happening in our time. A great counterfeiting all across the board. We've got a counterfeit religion, unfortunately, coming through the Vatican, I would argue. We've got just counterfeit everything. I mean, take a look even on the health side of things. Them trying to preach that vaccines are going to be the solution to this pandemic as regards as opposed to herd immunity and just trying to get through it. And just all across the board, even when you take a look at the media, right? I mean, can we believe them? Can we believe our politicians? I mean, it's like, who do you turn to in these times? Now, one of your most popular videos here from the last few months, and again, when I was briefly talking off air with you, I told you that amongst traditionalists, I mean, there's very controversial Marian apparition sites, and with Garrett Medall, I'll argue probably in traditional land, it's like 50-50. Some people really hold to it; others believe it's demonic or whatnot. But for the sake of your work, you drew some connections between Fatima and Garrett Medall. Maybe you could bring some of those connections together. It looked like you did a rather lengthy video on that.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to get there last July. I felt quite called to Garbendale for a while. It has always been that sense of mysteriousness because it's not like Fatima or Lourdes where it's really built up. In fact, the villagers are stuck to the promise to the bishop not to build it up, and they've turned down multi-million-pound deals with hotels and all that stuff. So it is a very empty small village in the middle of the mountains. Some of the houses don't even have plumbing in it still. It's so far back in time.
Mm.
But I think the problem again was the church. If you're getting what I think that video highlighted for me especially is all the ones like from Fatima before on about the false church or speaking about a false liturgy. See when 1960 came in Lucia of Fatima, that was her date. Our Lady appeared even beforehand, I think 1929, saying now's the time to consecrate Russia. So there you go. We've got that date in June. It was June 13th. I can't. It was June 29th, mate, or something. It was June 1929 anyway. But 1960 was the deadline, and they reckon John the 23rd would have heard of Garabandal and that when he opened up the Vatican Council, saying like these prophets of doom. The year after that deadline, Garabandal began, and she wasn't. And see what Fatima wasn't revealed with the third secret. I think Garabandal more or less highlights it when there are many priests, bishops and cardinals on the road to perdition and leading many souls with them. Now back in the 60s, which was the revolution of the world, the swinging 60s, and everything that came from Vatican II, again the confusion and whatever else we could put in there, she gave us a time, but now she's being more direct. And I never realised just how significant Garabandal was until I was there and really got it clear to me. Because they still have daily mass every day. The villagers are amazing in terms of their faith, but it's non-commercial, and it's still mysterious. But see if those apparitions didn't occur, and being in that small town village in the middle of nowhere, Our Lady of Mount Carmel is everywhere. The brown scapulas are everywhere. The statues up the mountains, it's all Our Lady of Carmel, which goes back to Fatima. And unbeknownst to me, when I arrived there and stayed in the little house that I did stay in, the little posada as they call it, it was actually the sister of the visionary, Mary Lowley, who's the one who died, but she knew the year of the Great Warning. And unbeknownst to me, the American man sitting there with his family was the son of Mary Lowley. I've had one or two emails exchanged with him since. He feels the urgency more and more, in his own words. And even what he says, as soon as one brown scapula broke, my mum had another one on us. And I run the Marian Apparitions Facebook page, which has quadrupled in size the past year. Conchita Gonzalez, the main visionary, who's to give us the 8 days notification of the great miracle. She's been quiet for decades now, but she has a contact who runs a page with me. In this past 12 months, she's gave 2 public messages after years and years of silence, and the urgency of using this time to get reset back to basics, putting God first. And then also recently she says she was very adamant about doing the novena to St. Joseph during this time for indulgences. Very adamant. So I think that as well, and I know that from other videos, I know your viewers may have mixed opinions with that and others, but as Catholics, we can't focus on the one text like scripture, and many do. Catholics take context of everything, and with a healthy balance, we might just see the jigsaw pieces making a clearer picture when we bring it all in, and that's my approach. But Garabandal, and another thing recently, I know Amazon Prime are looking more into the Garabandal just now, and also the community House of the Mother, who are based in Spain. They go to Garabandal every so often to do the Rosary at the Pines. They also made a great documentary just now in the past year called Unstoppable Waterfall, I believe it is. But the best part I liked about that is they clear up the mystery part of the church. Many bishops from the 60s to now really didn't do anything to investigate it properly. And in 1993, I can't remember the bishop at the time, but he basically wrote to the Holy See and says, more or less, this is a shambles, we need to start again. And thanks to good old Cardinal Ratzinger at the time, he basically gave it a clean slate. And since then to now, nothing much has been done with it. But that documentary cleared that up. But at the end, I like the credits. Mother Angelica, she says, my cameras will be there for the miracle to be videoed. Mother Teresa had a great connection with them, but she was also godmother to Conchita's children, at least one of them. Padre Pio left his face cloth for Conchita, and there's a copy in the village of her aunt who still has the letter what he wrote to the girls. And you see everything, even if one what you believe or not, but this is the company these girls kept. And I think there's so much in it not to be ruled out for sure. So yeah, it's definitely done more for me. And the person that actually showed me this, if you look at my original video, it was Michael in the info centre. He I would say would fit in well with your looking a lot of things, because he brought in La Salette, he brought in Fatima, he brought in stuff of Padre Pio and a couple of the mystics as well. So for me, it fits very clearly. And I won't say too much on it to respect you in the channel, like you say with your listeners about Medjugorje and things. But the big thing that stood out for me when I first heard of it is that young boy watching the Fatima movie. Oh, I wish I was there. I wish that would happen in my time. The thing that stood out in Medjugorje is I'll finish here what I began in Fatima. My heart will triumph. And for me, that was a massive statement. And I know again, the first 7 apparitions I've got the good okay with the church after years of investigating it properly. And people with Garabandal, they try to guess when the year of the warning will be. They try to guess they never seem to focus on the messages about how to live a good life and things. But the more I look at the first ways of what's described with the Medjugorje secrets, the first 1 or 2 is shaking up of the world, something else. The third secret is the great miracle, which echoes Garabandal. I think I see it just fitting in perfectly, where we won't have to guess anything. We're going to get the notification a few days in advance, and these things are going to come one after another very quickly. Social collapse, economic collapse, the great illumination of conscience, whatever else is going on, where peace is shattered on earth and everything else. I mean, I'm firing off now, but this is what tries to funnel from the head through the mouth. But no, I understand.
Yeah, awful lot. We know events are certainly picking up. Unfortunately, we only got a few minutes left, and we'll be doing a follow-up interview with Mark next month to be breaking down more of his videos and just getting to know him a little bit better. But right now, as of January 23rd, 2021, if a Catholic that's listening out there has not yet begun to prepare, you already mentioned the obvious, the spiritual side of things, but on the material level, what's maybe some of the top 3 or 5 things that you would encourage Catholics to do at this stage in the game if they haven't started prepping already?
Yeah, I would say that this past year has been an opportunity to gather your thoughts, gather what's important in life. It's been a year of precursors, as I call it. We're taking a blessing in disguise to examine our conscience already. Don't have to wait for any illumination of conscience. We've got a moment right now to examine our consciences, put God in the first place, live our life according to the gospel, according to our faith, and everything else will take care of itself. In the terms of materialistic survival, start looking at how you balance your finances depending on your situation. Can you put a little bit away for extra food? Have you got a little bit of garden where you can start growing some fruit and veg? I mean, even in the UK, Brexit has occurred, which is another iceberg of nonsense underneath the surface we don't know about yet. Are we speaking about the breakup of Europe in a lot of ways? So it comes to the point where prices and inflation's going up, and to put something right in as a curveball, here in the UK, it's not a big thing about being in the stocks and shares. But see, in the recent 2 weeks, I've started to look at ways of how can we start getting our money to generate a lot more, because the banks are at 0.01% now. So financially, what's moving for the future? There's 5 major niches that are coming at once: DNA sequencing, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, electric cars. We've seen Tesla take off. It's going to be space exploration from even Amazon to SpaceX and others, Virgin Galactic. These 5 mergers are coming at once. Yeah, and I think COVID's helped that out a lot, especially the DNA sequencing. But if anyone's smart enough to know where the next big thing would be, and if they've got this little amount of penny to spare, financially you could use these moments in an ethical way, hopefully, to maybe just get enough money to get that plot of land in 5 to 10 years' time that you might not get in your salary. So that's a curveball. But you know what? In the last week or two, I'm starting to think that way. I can't buy a bunker right now. I can't buy 10 years of supply food right now. But I know where the next thing is coming, and it's 5 things at once. And you start researching that, you start seeing where it's coming. Maybe preparing now for 10 years' time be the smartest thing to do if we're still going to be here.
All right, yeah, no, well said. Wow, great opening talk here with Mark McLean. Mark, we always allow our guests shameless self-promotion time outside of the YouTube channel Prophecy Prep, or anything you wanted to make mention, perhaps maybe some of the next videos you're going to be doing, maybe media appearances, social media, any other social media, whatever you'd like, and then I'll close out the show.
Sure. Well, it's been a past year of being in a sabbatical, I suppose, and now I'm getting into it, especially when these times have came the past 12 months or so. I do run the Marian Apparitions page where we do learn a lot on Facebook. I'm happy and open to receive any chats such as yourself. You just wrote to me and here I am. So if anyone else is listening and wants to do the same, I'd be more than happy to do it. The future videos I am looking at focusing on more of the niche of these times. Our Lady of Knock, I've never bothered about, but see, after my recent video looking at Apocalypse chapters Lucia told us to focus on, 8 to 13, seeing the rise of the anti-church, the false worship, it makes so much sense. Our Lady of Knock and the silent apparition speaks volumes. You've got St. Joseph, which right now we're in the year of, Our Lady, of course, and then St. John the Evangelist writing the Apocalypse and that apparition. But more importantly is the Lamb on the altar. That is all apocalyptic. That is all for these times. And in the silence of the church just now, the silence of Knock is giving a loud warning for these times. And yeah, so I think I'm going to look into that. I want to look a bit more into Akita. I think, again, like we were saying earlier, COVID's the warm-up. I don't think it's going to kill us all, but what's the next one in 5 years? We don't know the chess players' move. But I think Akita, where, yeah, we know fire from the sky, 2/3 of humanity, but she did say something about it could come through the human race itself. And I just remembered that a couple of days ago. So I want to kind of look back into it, see what that could maybe be, but I ain't no rush to get a vaccine.
Right.
You know, so yeah, hopefully that's enough. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Very loosely, maybe a connection there with the burning plague of Marie Julie Jahenny, but it is found consistently throughout Scripture, Apocalypse 8:7, and other approved Marian apparitions, whether it's Blessed Sister Ayala or Our Lady of Good Success, that there will literally be a fire coming from the skies that won't be a nuclear, it won't be made with human hands. So I always take a look at CMEs, solar flares from the sun. That's why I bring on some of the top space weather kind of experts, because I think that movie, The Knowing, did you see that one with Nicolas Cage? Sort of that predictive programming of the CME coming down and roasting a good portion of the people. But yeah.
I remember that one, yeah. Well, whatever it is, and it's not, I know we're running out of time, but again, when you say that, it reminds me of what they even says during the sudden and unexpected war and things that happens with Garbandal. People will even be jumping into the water and it'll still be burning. I mean, this is horrific stuff that might come, and I don't want to put the fear in people out there. We want to focus on the love. And again, that's that preparation. If you die, I always look at St. John's letter. You know, you've reached the day of judgment with no fear in your heart when you've reached the fullness of love. when you have no fear in the heart. And that's in Catherine. If you look at her incorrupt body, she's just smiling. I mean, that's how I want to be when I die. And that only comes from inside. That's the heart, you know. So yeah, focus on those messages to get there. But yeah, the only last thing I'd say, sorry, I know we're cutting time here, is I always thought as well, like you're saying about nuclear war, that could be the only way for such an annihilation. But or other things, and Lucia Fatima did say, like, world communism would be there, it'd be every nation, and I think we're getting there already. We're seeing that evil behind the mask. But how else could it be? And for me, the recent thing coming out now is the Great Reset. Yeah, that's not conspiracy. It's been published in Time magazine. It's a World Economic Forum. The UN's kind of putting out ways of advertising it. But if you look about certain principles of it, and again, those niches that are emerging as the next thing at once, as I said, the Great Reset is a platform for that. That's definitely where it's moving for sure.
I didn't want to make it seem like I didn't think nuclear war was on the table. As a matter of fact, I think there'll either be maybe all of these chemical false flags happening worldwide in order to drag us into World War III. But certainly, nuclear attack is on the table. I'm just saying there's a divine chastisement too. So yeah, certainly we're going to be experiencing dragged into a major war. And Catholic prophecy indicates that Russia will attack us. Will attack the United States. Will overrun Europe. And they've been I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news, but over this last month, they've been really firing off a lot of their nuclear capabilities, nuclear missiles. One missile had a range of 3,500 miles, they said.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy, you know, so they got stuff that we don't even know about, really. So, yeah, we're definitely keeping an eye on that. And I think we're really close. We're getting close to that time, too, yeah.
Well, the only thing I would say, 1929, I know there's an argument about the Russia, was it consecrated properly or not? There's signs of good fruits from 1984 with John Paul II doing it, but at the same time it's this emergence. She says she asked for it done in 1929, and we're reaching the 100th anniversary. So if it hasn't been done right, I think it'll be like the French Revolution. You had 100 years to do it. You didn't consecrate France to the Sacred Heart, and look what happened. I think 1929, which is the year before their pre-pandemic plans for the world and climate change stuff and all that, we've got this 100 years approaching, and look what's emerging. The communism's there, the Great Reset, the world communism, the fact of a lot more to come. If it wasn't going to come because of the consecration, why are these things still unfolding? Why is she still? I know, like, say some people don't believe in others, but if they are true, for argument's sake, why is she still asking? Why is she still warning?
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. You know, the errors of Russia have obviously spread, and basically the communist tactic was to basically infiltrate, go underground, make it seem like communism was done away with. So the whole, John Paul II did away with communism, and communism is defeated, and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all nonsense as far as we're concerned.
The spirit's still there. Yeah, the spirit's still there for sure. It's definitely there.
So we've got a lot to look forward to in our next talk with Mark. Mark, thank you so much. Thank Mark for joining the program. Look for him next month. I think it's February the 18th. And folks, until next time, stay safe and God bless.